I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. I've been washed in the fountain, cleansed by His blood. Join hands with Jesus as we travel this road, for I'm part of the family of God. You may notice we say brother and sisters round here. It's because we're a family, and these are so near. When one has a heartache, we all share a tear and rejoice in the victory in this family so dear. I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. I've been washed in the fountain, cleansed by His blood. Join hands with Jesus as we travel this road, for I'm part of the family of God. From the door of an orphanage to the house of the King, no longer an outcast, a new song I sing. From rags on to riches, from the weak to the strong, I'm not worthy to be here, but praise God I belong. I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. I've been washed in the fountain, cleansed by His blood. Join hands with Jesus as we travel this road, for I'm part of the family of God. I'm so glad I'm a part of the family of God. I've been washed in the fountain, cleansed by His blood. Join hands with Jesus as we travel this road, for I'm part of the family of God. For I'm part of the family of God.
Thank you for rejoining us. We apologize for the break in transmission. We had a few technical difficulties, and hopefully they will now have been sorted out. That special song was by Sister Serana Phillip, and it was indeed very beautiful singing. So at this point, we'll move into the main feature of our program, where we will be discussing the New Start acronym. And before we do that, we just want to give a little bit of information on health, and Pastor Gordon will be doing something like that.
Thank you very much. Health is a very, very important concept and condition. Why health, and why should young people be concerned about health? Well, the truth is that right now, when we look at the numbers, when we see what the statisticians are telling us, our youths are in serious trouble. Not so long ago, some friends and myself, we drove from Atlanta, Georgia up north to Tennessee to a hospital to look for this nice young man. He was one of the choristers, praise and worship team members in the church. Got sick, rushed into the hospital. A few days, they discovered that both kidneys collapsed because he was diabetic. He didn't know it, and he continued the usual Western diet, you know, the regular American diet. And here is this young man with a very beautiful young wife, nice couple, but both kidneys were totally crashed. He had not the use of his kidneys. So we want our young people to be alive, to be happy, to be holy, and to be healthy. We want you to pay attention to your greatest wealth. What is a lot of money without good health? And so tonight, as we focus on New Start, we hope you'll be inspired and animated, and you will want to leave the program. Having seen the program, you'll want to go and get involved in doing those things that will preserve your health.
I also want to add that the leading cause of death globally is what is known as the CNCDs, that's the chronic non-communicable diseases. And they comprise the high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular diseases. Now, as it relates to the New Start, it is both preventative and curative. Preventative means that you can prevent all of those non-communicable diseases that I have listed: high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer, cardiovascular disease, if you stick to those principles. And if you already have a health condition, then practicing those principles that we will talk about will also help you to become well.
So, New Start. Someone referred to New Start as nature's doctors. And I totally concur with the idea that the New Start program is really nature's doctors. And as Pastor Guillaume said, when we approach health, the whole concept is bifurcated on the preventative side and the curative side. When taken together, getting in compliance with the 8 laws, as they're often called, will indeed improve your health. It's inexorable. It follows that once you do it, once you get involved, you are going to see results. That's what I mean. I say it's inexorable. You will see results once you observe them.
And health experts are now coming to realize that going back to the basic is of absolute importance in remaining healthy. So as they care for their patients and so forth, they are saying, and even as you read the literature, you are seeing that they are saying that we need to go back to the basics rather than, doing things the modern way. And it creates more problem to us than anything else.
And I think that health is often overlooked a lot, especially as young people. You're young, you're strong, think you're kind of invincible. And today, every day I always hear about health because I'm studying medicine now. And just today, somebody was telling me, if you don't take care of your machine, it won't be able to do what you want it to do.
That's right.
And I think that that's something that we all have to remember as we go about our daily lives. And the guiding principles could, I guess, kind of be summed up in one of the texts that we have, which is 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whether therefore ye eat or drink, or whatsoever ye do all to the glory of God. And we have to remember that God gave us our body is our temple. And I think that that's something always to remember. Even if you don't always remember New Start, that's something that you should always try to remember. So our first principle of New Start, which we have the N, is nutrition. And nutrition is a very big part of health. And nutrition is described as the intellectual, moral, and physical, nutrition is what we put into our body. And according to the councils on diet and foods, the intellectual, the moral, and physical powers are depreciated by the habitual use of flesh meats. Meat eating deranges the system, beclouds the intellect, and blunts the moral sensibilities. We say to you, dear brother and sister, your safest course is to let meat alone. So that's the first part of our nutrition principle.
So just before you go to nutrition, you made a point that I just want to comment on. The fact that God has given us this body. We must realize that this body is not ours. God gave us for us to take care of it. It therefore means that we have to give an account for the way we take care of our bodies. So if God is so interested in our health, it therefore means that we ourselves must be interested in our health. That's why when you go to 3 John 2, it says, Beloved, I wish above all things that thou prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospered. So when God created man, He created us as a four-dimensional being. So health here doesn't only mean physical, but it also means mental and spiritual and social. So therefore, when God says, Beloved, that He wished that we prosper and be in good in health, He was not only speaking about the physical. You see, sometimes we focus mainly on the physical, but the other aspects suffers. So in other words, we must learn to create the balance in our everyday living so that we'll be able to remain healthy, not just physically, but socially and spiritually and otherwise.
And I like the point. I like the text you read, and which is complemented by what Pastor Guillaume just said. And I'd like to add something to it within the context of the first letter of the acronym, nutrition. You know, if God is the one who made the body, then I think He has the best idea of how to preserve it.
That's right.
You know, when I go to a car dealership and I purchase a new car, invariably there is a little manual in the glove compartment. And that tells me what to do. It says put unleaded fuel in the gas tank, and put transmission oil in the transmission, and put radiator fluid in the radiator, and a number of other things. Now I could say it's my car. I work on, and I purchased it. I will put what I want in there. So now I put carrot beer in the transmission, and I put nutmeg syrup in the engine. I do what I want. Can I not do what I want? It's my car. Of course I can. But the question is, what would be the consequences of doing what I want to do? If for the car to serve me well, I need to follow the manufacturer's specifications.
That's right.
And when you get to the book of Genesis, you find that God really gave us a prescription as to how to get to a nutrition. And it was plant-based nutrition that the Creator prescribed for us. And now we see that science has now come around to catch up with the Bible. We see an example of Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton. Well, he was president maybe when you were a kid or something. But now he was a McDonald's guy, fast food, refined foods. But after a while, he discovered that his health was really going down. He now switched to a plant-based diet. And when you listen to him talk, his whole system is transformed. And there is an abundance of research that has actually proved that the best source of nutrition is from plants. And I want to speak especially of vegetable, which was added to the nuts, fruits, and grains after sin. And before sin, it was nuts, fruits, and grains. Now, I feel that God saw that the body would need extra support. It needed to be buttressed nutritionally with a lot more. So God threw in vegetables. Dark leafy green vegetables. I mean, the time would not allow us to talk about the absolute blessing and benefit of dark leafy green vegetable in terms of providing sufficient nutrients for our bodies. We're not focusing only on the vegetables. You know, we talk about a balanced diet, and so there's several components of a balanced diet. But the point is that for N in the New Start acronym, nutrition is best you get the best benefits when you get it from plant-based sources.
And that's why Hippocrates, he said, let your medicine be your food, and let your food be your medicine. So it has been tested and proven that when we eat, there's no need for us to take medication and so forth. So, and not just what we eat, but how we eat plays a very integral role in us remaining healthy. So, as you look at the way the food is served these days, the minimal part is the vegetable and the greens, yeah, the salad, the minimal, and the major part you will find is the meat. Yeah, you will find a lot of carbohydrates and so forth, and it shows you that I did a course with the nutrition. I'm trying to remember the name of the place they have it. And they were pointing out this to us. They showed us the plate and what should be on the plate. And the fact that we are speaking specifically to young people, I know that, when you tell young people to avoid the meat, they may frown. They may not like that. It's something foreign to them. Yeah? And as you rightly say, sometimes as young people you see yourself as invincible. So you can do anything, you can eat anything. And because nothing is happening to you, you feel, well, I can consume more and more and more. But after a while, it will begin to affect you. And on our market these days, we have not just in terms of the food and fast food and so forth that is being served, but we have a lot of our drinks that are very unhealthy. So when you look at some of those drinks, they are energy drinks, and a lot of our young people, not knowing that, consume a lot of those drinks. They are high in caffeine content, and as I said, after a while, when you keep consuming those food, then it can begin to affect you while you grow older and older. So my counsel to young people is that it's important that you look at your diet as to what you eat and how you eat, because sometimes there are young people who eat a lot. They think that yes, you're growing, and they have the tendency to eat a lot. They eat and they eat regularly, but it's important that we rest our stomachs at times so that we can get the energy, the mental energy especially, because what I've discovered is that when you eat a lot of food, it draws blood from your brain. And that's what Ellen White is talking about. So it benumbs even your intellect, your decision making, and so forth, because the blood from your brain rushes down to your stomach, and it has to work hard in order to digest that food. So it's important that we ensure that we take good care of ourselves as regards to nutrition, we eat healthily, and in terms of how much we eat and how regular we eat.
Just want to say that when you talked about the eating, when you just talked about sometimes you eat a lot of food, there was a question here, and I would like to pose it to our viewers. In any celebratory event or season, have you ever eaten more food knowing that you were already satisfied? In any celebratory event or season, have you ever gotten more food knowing that you are already satisfied? So you have family dinner, you have Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, whatever. Have you ever taken more food? You know you're not hungry anymore. Have you ever taken more food? You can just answer yes or no. We're not judging. All of us have been there. I know I've been there. Sometimes you see the food and you're like, I don't eat this food often, so... And then you just eat a little too much, But...
Because while the responses are coming, I'd like to say that in getting your nutrition, you really need to ensure that you have a kind of broad-based approach to getting your nutrition. For example, you want to make sure you get your vitamins. You want to make sure you get your minerals. You want to make sure that you get healthy fats, and by that I mean like monounsaturated fats. Or you want to make sure that you get your protein. Now, the truth is that when you look at the Eden diet, you find out that all the various categories of nutrition, you can actually access all your vitamins, all your minerals, simply by following the plant-based diet. There is no deficiency. In fact, they're now discovering that this thing that has caused a lot of controversy over the years, the lack of B12, they've discovered that B12 is actually made in the body, and that there are some plant sources of B12, which we were told in years gone by that if you're a vegetarian, you run the risk of not getting enough B12 in your diet. But they're coming around to seeing that God's program is never deficient.
That's right.
So, just to also add in that a lot of, well, I mean, we'll probably cover this a bit more when we get closer to the end of New Start, but also the overeating and eating fattening foods you run the risk of becoming obese, which is a risk factor for many diseases. And when we're doing diseases, a lot of like your cardiovascular diseases, heart diseases, your hypertension, things like that, you'll always see risk factor obesity. And one of the things that we also learned is that when you gain fat, you gain fat cells. For example, if I was 120 pounds and I'm now 155 pounds, I've gained fat cells. When you lose weight, those fat cells don't actually go away.
That's right.
The amount of fat in the cell decreases,
Sure.
but they're still there. And that makes it much easier for you to regain weight. So if you're ever wondering why, at one point in your life you were slim and now like you lost the weight, but any little thing you do, you feel like you eat just one more piece of chicken and you feel like you just gained back some more weight. I mean, yeah, but one thing that you have to realize is, and that's why they always say when you gain weight, it's hard to take it off. But that's just something for, your own knowledge that you should remember, is that is very important. Not eating a lot of fattening foods, as well as even sugars, and which Pastor Guillaume kind of alluded to when he was talking about the drinks. I also have a quote here talking about sugars, and it says that cancer feeds on sugar. And sugar is also not good for your stomach because it causes fermentation. Well, it can ferment, it doesn't exactly cause the fermentation. But this also clouds the brain and brings peevishness into the disposition. And this is from Counsels on Diet and Foods. And I remember when I told my mom I was coming to do the program, she said, make sure you talk about high fructose corn syrup.
Oh, that is the favorite right now.
And so if you do check a lot of the ingredients, and even things that you wouldn't think are high in sugar, a lot of people don't realize, for example, things like ketchup are very high in sugar. And sometimes you might eat ketchup and then you're like, this tastes so vinegary, so bitter, and then you go for the one you're accustomed to. But especially in the Caribbean, like a lot of the Caribbean brands, they use a lot of sugar. And even just mundane everyday things that you use. So sometimes it's good to pay attention to the things that you eat. And especially just the ingredients. Sometimes, somebody will say, oh, they were so bored this morning, they were reading the ingredients on the back of the cereal box. But sometimes before you buy it, before you get home with it, you need to check up on what you're eating. And if you are worried about unhealthy sugars, there are also a lot of healthier alternatives. For example, you have barley malt, brown rice syrup, honey, date sugar, molasses, and stevia, which is actually a plant. But You can also continue, you can do a little bit more research, or you can, contact.
It's interesting that you said that. I was at a workshop about 3 weeks ago. One of the presenters actually showed that there has been a study done on high fructose corn syrup, and it showed the study has revealed that it has the same deleterious effect on the liver as alcohol, as drinking alcohol. And when you look at the number of products that have high fructose corn syrup, it's absolutely horrendous. From cornflakes, just about all the cereals and all the drinks, it has a serious deleterious effect on the liver. So we gotta stay away from it. It's interesting also that in your remarks you mentioned obesity. We just completed a program raising the consciousness on obesity, because obesity is a predisposing factor to a number of chronic diseases, especially the ones Pastor Guillaume mentioned earlier. Today, as we speak, 1 out of every 3 Caribbean youth is obese. Now, when you think of the implications of that going forward, 1 out of every 3 Caribbean youth overweight, that has serious implications for health and for athletics and all of that. So we need to keep abreast.
And there's so many things we can say about the
I just want to say,
end.
as you mentioned about obesity, it's not just about eating fatty foods, but a person can become obese by eating high starchy foods. Because, and again, it goes back to the portions. So when people eat more than what they should eat, so for example, a serving, when you buy a pack of crepes, these days they're making it in the roll, a serving is 6, but sometimes when we open the pack, we eat more than the 6. So it therefore means that when it comes to eating, many a times we eat more than the serving size or the portion size. And whenever we eat more than we should, the body stores it. It stores it. And that contributes to us putting on weight, becoming obese, and so forth. So it's not just the chicken and so on that persons eat that would make them. Yeah. Now, you mentioned about the ketchup. Now, it's interesting, very interesting. Just recently, my wife and I were doing some studies as regards to, sugars. And I don't know if young people ever ask themselves the question, why is it that they always serve ketchup with the chicken? Why is it?
Yeah.
There's a reason. Yeah? There's a reason. And we have discovered that, very rare you will find where they will serve you maybe a portion of chicken without ketchup. Now, this is what makes you come back. This is what makes you come back. So it's not just the chicken, but the ketchup. There's something in the ketchup that makes you come back. This is the thing that catches you, and it's something that we have to really and truly bear in mind. And as you rightly said, we need to read our labels so that when we go to shop, we read our labels and see what is healthy for us and what we should stay away from.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that you talked about the obesity not just being fatty foods, but
That's
eating more than we are using. And that is actually a good segue into the next letter of New Start, which is exercise. And fat is accumulated when your input is greater than your output.
That's right.
So you consume more calories, more amounts of food than you are using in energy. So for exercise, and a lot of people may be surprised to hear this, but the adult recommendation for exercise is 15 minutes per day, 5 to 6 times per week, or 30 minutes per day, 3 days per week. And a lot of people think, oh, I'll start exercising next week, I'll start exercising next month, because exercising is so hard, and oh, I have to do it for so much time. And also a lot of things that we can do in our daily lives to incorporate exercise in our lives. For example, if you work in a building that has stairs, and it also has an elevator. I mean, I know that's not very common in Grenada, but for example, if you're in this scenario, walking instead of riding, or for example, if you live a certain distance away from where you work, a short distance away from where you work, instead of taking the bus home, you can walk home, or where you go to school. Because I remember, even when I was in primary school, we went to school in Simoon. I mean, I did not live in Grenville, but my parents worked in Grenville, and me and my friends, we often used to walk from school to Grenville after school. Usually it was just so we could save the bus money to do something else with the money, but at the same time, I remember thinking that it was always very enjoyable, at the very least. And even now, in school, I always try to find time to exercise, have friends, and that's always a good idea to get a partner or a group of people to exercise with. It makes the exercise more enjoyable. It also gives you someone to, kind of pull you up, or someone to be like, okay, so what time are we going to exercise today? Or, are you ready to go exercise? That way you don't fall behind and just say, I'll go next week or I'll go tomorrow. But just remembering that you only need 15 minutes a day. It doesn't have to be in a gym. It doesn't have to be, in some designated exercise place or with a trainer. It could just be walking. Walking is a great form of exercise.
That's right.
If you know exercises that you can do at home, it can be after you come home from school, after you come home from work. It doesn't have to be high intensity, it doesn't have to be strenuous, and that's one of the things.
Dr. Frank at the Harvard School of Public Health has recently disclosed that when one is involved in an exercise program, regular exercise program, you actually reduce your risk of a heart attack by 44%. Now that's very interesting.
That is very interesting.
Now there's a little adage that we find around that says no pain, no gain. And so some folks get scared.
Mm-hmm.
They get scared of exercising because they're told you gotta have some pain. But exercise doesn't have to be painful. In fact, it is now being suggested by the pundits, anatomists and physiologists, that you can actually take a break. So you exercise and don't put the muscle under too much stress. So after, just take a break. Once you're getting the heartbeat rate to be above 10% of what it's usually, the normal resting rate, then you will be getting some benefits from that. It doesn't have to be grueling and hard. In fact, it is said that when you overwork the muscles, you build up more lactic acid in the muscles, and that creates a lot more problems as well. So exercise can be fun, and we must make it fun. Another component of exercise is its impact on mental health. Research has shown that people who exercise, their bodies secretes or manufactures more serotonin than those who don't. And there was a study where they had some folks on the class of medication that we call the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or the SSRIs, like Zoloft, Paxil, Prozac. And they had the other group on a regular exercise program. Would you want to guess what happens after the testing period was over? The ones that were on the antidepressant did not feel as well as those who were on a regular exercise program.
That's right.
Interesting.
Sure. And that's why exercise takes discipline. You really have to be disciplined to be on an exercise program. You see, the problem is that there are a lot of persons who they try to push themselves at first, and because of the adverse effects, they stop. But one person says that we should not use the jackhammer approach,
Mhm.
but we should use the cotton ball approach, which means that as we seek to make lifestyle changes, we should take it little bit by little bit, as it's tolerated by you, because sometimes we push ourselves because we want to reach our goal in a quick possible time,
Mhm.
and at the end we end up just falling apart.
Mhm.
So it's always good not to use a jackhammer approach, but to use a cotton ball approach, step by step. Take it little by little, little by little. Now, it's interesting. Well, I mean, the 15 minutes approach for 5 to 6 days is workable, but today the health experts, they are saying that at least 30 minutes,
Mhm.
at least 30 minutes per week, not per week, but
Per day.
per day is recommended.
Mhm.
And for young people, there is something called the HIIT.
Mhm.
I heard you mention a little bit about it, the high intensity interval training.
Mhm.
That's where you have 30 seconds of high intensity exercise and then a 60 minutes relaxation.
Mhm.
So our recovery, where the person recovers after the 30 minutes vigorous exercise, and then they do the cycle again.
Mhm.
Yeah. So it goes to about 7 to 10 cycles. This helps to speed up your heart rate. It helps because we will talk about air.
Mhm.
So it helps with deep breathing. It helps to, get rid of the residue, because sometimes we breathe and we don't breathe deep enough. So the residue that is deep in our lungs is left there. But when we do those high intensity exercises, it helps us. It helps us to breathe better, and even our brain functions better, because then you have more oxygen flowing to our brain. So this is just something that I decided to share with the young people, because I know that young people have a lot of energy.
Mhm.
A lot of energy. And you might tell them, well, 30 minutes exercise, they might say, 30 minutes walking, that is boring, They might want to do something that is more active. So maybe they can try the high intensity interval training. Now, one more thing I just want to say here, that there's a difference between, some people argue with this,
Mhm.
but there's a difference between exercise and physical activity.
Mhm.
So a person will tell you, well, I go to my garden
Mhm.
every day, I cut grass. That's physical activity.
Mhm.
That's something they are accustomed to. But Pastor Gordon alluded to the fact that when you set out to exercise, your body should be in a relaxed mode, your mind, because your mindset, you're going out there to exercise. Yeah? So you should be in a relaxed mood. But sometimes, in terms of physical activity, it's like you work, you're doing your job, And sometimes with the physical activity, you have some level of stress. So, Pastor alluded to the release of serotonin. That's a feel-good hormone
Mhm.
that helps you to feel relaxed. So after you finish exercising, you should feel relaxed. You should feel good in your body. It helps with your well-being and so forth. So there is always a difference, although some people tend to argue and say, physical activity is the same thing as exercise. But in my research, there is a difference between exercise and physical activity.
Just a few suggestions to persons who, like Pastor Gary was saying, feels like exercise is boring. The high intensity interval training.
Yes.
You can also do more research on that, and there are also apps that will give you exercises to do to actually do the high intensity interval training routine. So it will give you the warm up, the actual high intensity exercise, and it will give you the recovery period
That's
exercise. So you can always do some more research on that. And also, if you feel like exercising is boring, again, if you're walking, do it with someone. Walking and talking is always
That's right.
entertaining.
That's right.
If you're walking by yourself, you can listen to music, although this is advisable to do in an area that you most likely will not encounter vehicles or other types of, things that could possibly injure you. For example, if you're going to, you can just walk around a field. I know lots of people might think, that sounds crazy. I might look crazy just walking around this field so much, but it could be a safer option for some people who feel like they don't want to walk on the roads or anything like that. And it's also for persons who have joint problems, like knee problems or problems that would hinder them from going up and downhill very often. That's also a good way to have a fairly low intensity in relation to your joints. A workout that's fairly low intensity. So those are just a few suggestions, and if you're also looking for other exercises to do, there are many different apps. There are also articles and different things. So even if you don't have any equipment, you don't need equipment, you don't need a gym, there's a lot of ways to work out.
Before you move on from exercise, there's a quick thing I need to say. Sometimes for security reasons, some folks don't want to go out like in the evenings or whatever. But if you've got a yard, you could go back and forth, even if it's not a wide space. Once you are intentional about your exercise, you could use whatever space you have in your yard and pace. Walk briskly back and forth. A. B. Sometimes people do regular exercise. But then, because of the sedentary work that they do, they exercise in the mornings. But then they go and they sit at the desk for 8 hours. Only get up able to get a bite.
That's right.
But research is now showing that if you have that type of lifestyle, even though you exercise in the morning, you could still be susceptible or vulnerable to some chronic diseases. So they are recommending that even though you exercise in the morning, don't sit all day at your desk. As you said earlier, if you have a document to give to your secretary down the hall, don't call her all the time. You get up and go and give it to her.
Sure.
Go every hour or so, just get up, stretch, walk around and come back. But don't think that because you exercise, then you can sit at your desk and only get up for lunch or whatever. Be more physically active.
That's right.
So
I'd just like to correct myself because I see that actually my wife has corrected me that in terms of the high intensity interval training, it's 30 seconds. I think I would have said 60 minutes recovery, but it's 60 seconds recovery. Yeah? So I just want to correct myself.
Good wife. A true helpmeet.
So we had a comment. I just want to read that comment before we move on, and it was talking about the way we treat our health in general, and I can't see the comment right now, but also another comment was that we should be taught how to read labels, which is true. We should, be able to understand what the labels on our food means. But I cannot see the comment right now, but it alluded to the fact that, we should take more of an interest in our health. We are a lot of the times very relaxed and lackadaisical when it comes to health specifically. We just think that if we put food in our body, it keeps running, we sleep, we eat, and our body just goes on. And that's just something that we should remember, is that our health is important.
If there's anybody locally who desires to know how to read your labels, we have a presentation available that we can share. Well, when I say share, we can come to your church and do that presentation as regards to how you should read your labels.
So if anybody is interested in presentations in their churches, or if you're also interested in maybe sourcing the presentation, if you're not within the island, you should just drop a comment, and after the show, we'll be able to
Figure out a way
contact
to
you,
get it.
and we'll figure out an arrangement with you. So any presentations related to reading labels and also to New Start,
Absolutely.
we could be able to source those to you, or health related, anything health.
And I should like to point out that it doesn't have to be in a church. We're prepared to come to your community center. And medical missionaries and I, we go to community centers,
That's right.
we go to city squares, we go anywhere. As long as you want us to come, we'll be there to assist.
And I think Nova kind of has it down with saying, if you can't pronounce what's on the label, then you shouldn't use it.
Have mercy.
And if you can't pronounce something on a label, the internet is your friend. You should
Great.
Google it and try to find out. And one suggestion is that we do a presentation on Youth Live, and we will consider that as a future idea. And I see one person also already indicating interest. So we will contact you after the show, and we will work out whatever is best for you. So our next letter is W, and that is water. So the adult recommendation for water is half your body weight in ounces. One average size glass is 8 ounces, and for anyone who's wondering, that's about 250 milliliters, I believe. And you should start with at least 8 glasses per day. So anyone who's, so
What size glasses?
one average size glass is 8 ounces. So eight 8-ounce glasses a day. And 8 ounces is about 250 milliliters. If you're wondering what that looks like, if you know what usually the small water bottles like Glenelg, and so if you don't have Glenelg, I apologize, but those small, yes, a water bottle like this is 500 milliliters, 350 milliliters, my bad. So almost the entirety of this water bottle, about, how much would this be? About 6/7 of this water bottle. That's a very odd measurement system, but almost all of this water bottle would be your 1 glass a day. I would say, why start at 1? You could just drink one of these water bottles as 1. And so the recommendation is that you drink 8 of these a day. And I know a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, that sounds like so much. Or, the recommendation is not that you try to drink all at one time. I don't think there are many people who can drink 8 of those at one time. But the recommendation is that you drink some throughout the day and try to monitor how much you drink throughout the day. And again, since, many of us, young and old, are technologically savvy, there are apps that can help you. For example, I am currently doing a water challenge. So I have an app on my phone that reminds me to drink water and allows me to input how much water I drink every day. So if you can download one of these apps on your tablet, on your phone, on your device, and it reminds you during the day, and it also reminds you to drink the water and lets you log. And Nova is saying you need to drink according to your weight. That is true. You need to drink about half your body weight in ounces. However, the average would be the 8 glasses of 8, the 8-ounce glasses. So, and Jarna is also saying it's easy to drink enough water if you start as soon as you wake up. And one of the main health suggestions is that you start your day as soon as you wake up by drinking warm water, which helps you first and foremost to actually wake up. It helps your body systems to wake up, as well as it helps your bowel movements. And if you start drinking water as soon as you wake up, it sets the pace for the rest of the day. So if as soon as I wake up, I already drink my glass of water, I go to the bathroom. Sometimes by the time I get out of the bathroom, I already want to drink another glass of water. And if you continue during the day, during intervals, and try to, pace yourself and remember how many glasses of water you drank so far, how many more you have to go. Don't make it into a burden, but just try to incorporate it into your daily life. And as you do it, you'll realize that you drink more water. Also, carrying around a water bottle instead of depending on, buying water or having water in your immediate vicinity. For example, being in a building, some people might not have a water bottle. That is a good idea. I always carry around a water bottle, and I find that it also helps me to remember to drink water. You have your bottle, you pick it up before you leave, and you're like, oh, I haven't drank any water in the past hour or so. So you would drink water then. And also, when you exercise, that also aids in you drinking more water. I find that when I'm doing my exercise regimen, I can drink a whole 750 milliliter bottle of water during the exercise period, before and after. So that also helps with the amount of water that you consume.
I just want to add here. Now, I just want to break down the fact that you mentioned about your half your body weight to the amount of water that you drink.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just want to just give a little example here that if you are 200 pounds, it means therefore that you have to divide that 200 pounds by 2,
Mm-hmm.
which will be equal to 100 pounds. And therefore means that that 100 pounds is equal to 100 ounces
Mm-hmm.
of water. That will be divided, that 100 ounces of water will be divided by 8 ounces, which is 1 glass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then if you are 200 pounds, it therefore means that you need to drink about 12 and a half glasses of water. Yeah. Now, because we live in a humid climate, it is that's what they recommend.
Mm-hmm.
But we can drink more
Mm-hmm.
because the more you sweat, then you need to put in the because you'll be losing fluid. Yeah. So therefore you need to replace what you are losing. Yeah. Now I also want to say here that when we speak about water, it is not just for internal use, but also external use. Right? And when it comes to water, why water is so important to us? Because when God created us, He created our bodies with 70% of water.
Mm-hmm.
The blood, the brain is termed as a wet cell battery. It therefore means that the brain contains 90% of water. And the blood contains 70 to 75% water. This should make us realize how important for us to drink enough water so that we can be hydrated. Our body, our blood, and our brain.
Mm-hmm.
Very important. And the blood is the main transportation of the water and other nutrients to the cells of our bodies. So if the kidney is not getting enough water, then it can cause adverse effects, not just to the kidney, but also to us. That's why sometimes when persons pass urine, the urine tend to look dark because they have not been consuming enough water.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like a strainer. If you have a strainer and what you're straining in the strainer is thick, then you don't expect to get much flowing out from the strainer.
Mm-hmm.
So the more fluid you pour into the strainer, whatever you're straining, the more fluid is the more you get as a result. Similarly with our kidneys, we must take care of our kidneys, and the best way to take care of our kidneys is ensure that we drink enough water, because whenever you pass urine, your urine should look almost clear as water.
Mm-hmm.
Once it looks dark, it means therefore that we are not drinking enough. All right. And when I say dark, it's look sort of orangish, yellowish, dark yellow. It means therefore that we are not drinking enough. So that's a way that we can measure ourselves to see whether we are drinking enough or whether we are lacking.
Just before you say this, just before I forget, I just wanted to comment on one of the things that Pastor said is that we live in a humid climate, and as such, we can drink more water. For persons who work in air conditioning, because I have experienced this myself, my entire school is air conditioned, and I live at school, and the dorm room where I sleep is also air conditioned. You may not sweat as much, and a lot of times you may not feel the urge to drink water as much. So therefore, you have to be more conscientious about your water consumption. Make sure if it's every hour, you have a reminder that reminds you to drink water, because sometimes you may not be sweating, you may not be doing functions that require any kind of water to be released from your system, and as such you may not realize how little water you are drinking. That's just one tip.
Beautiful. And sometimes you can make your water a little bit more palatable, for want of a better word. I have found that in the mornings, like I follow you, but I sometimes squeeze a little bit of lemon juice in my water, and it just gives it a nice tang and a nice little flavor. And so it increases my interest in wanting to do it. Some people use cucumber and they put it in their water. But whatever you can do to ensure that your system remains well hydrated, it must be done, because water on the inside is vitally important for absorption, for circulation, for excretion. If somebody suffers from constipation, for example, you would want to, in addition to the increase in fiber, you want to ensure that you also don't fall back on your water intake. Water on the inside is good. And if you are, when exam time is coming up as students, this is a young people's program, you should ensure that you go into the exam room with a well-hydrated brain. It makes a difference. It enhances circulation, and if your circulation is enhanced, then your cerebral cortex is likely to be enhanced.
And I just saw some advice being given in the comments. There was someone, for those of you who would not have read that comment, there was someone who was asking, how do you advise someone who doesn't like water to drink the 8 glasses of water a day? And we have Sister Kim and Sister George and Sister Sterling all telling her, about different things that you can add. So you can add different fruits. There are actually, for those of you who don't want like the pieces of the fruits in it, there's bottles that have a specific section inside of it that lets you put the fruits inside and the water mixes around with the fruits. I think it's called like an infuser bottle. So you could use things like lemon, mint, rosemary, cucumber. You could also use other fruits that you have available. It's not advised that you use sugar, because you're not trying to make juice. You're just trying to, pure water is the goal. So also when you're talking about water, don't think about, I drank some juice an hour ago. That's not considered part of your 8 glasses of water a day. And we also have someone asking, is flavored water good to drink? It depends on what flavored water you're talking about. You have to look at the ingredients. If, like Nova said, there's words that you cannot pronounce in the ingredients, chances are it's not something that you would like to drink. Also, if you see sugar or flavors that are not natural, so if it's flavored with stevia, which is a natural sweetener, or if it's flavored with some other thing like honey or something like that, it may be better to drink than, for example, something like, I don't want to name drop anything here, but some things that you might see like cranberry water and things like that, a lot of the time they tend to have a lot of added sugars and other added preservatives and other things like that, and you want to try to stay away from those.
That's right. Absolutely right.
So we're now on to the S in New Start, which is sunshine. And the adult recommendation is 10 to 30 minutes per day. Sunshine gives the body vitamin D, which not only keeps the bone strong, but is also necessary for other bodily processes. And lack of sunshine has been known to cause depression, because sunshine, again, activates the release of serotonin and also helps with your body rhythm cycle. So that can also cause depression. One thing that I also, again, for the people who work in air conditioning or work inside of a building all day, it would be good to, if possible, eat lunch outside, or at least go outside several times during the day, because again, you a lot of the times don't miss sunlight specifically, but you'll begin to feel the effects of missing the sunlight, and you won't be sure why you feel that way. For example, again, I live and study and do everything in school, and sometimes on the weekends while I'm studying, I find myself not going outside for a day. And because I'm so absorbed in what I'm doing, I wake up, I shower, I eat, I sleep, and then I realize I didn't go outside all day yesterday. So even if you're taking a study break, don't just stay inside and, watch a video. You could probably go outside for a walk. You could just, even if you're going to watch the video, watch it outside. If whatever you're going to do to relax, or, even if you're going to eat, do it outside. Just anything that allows you to get that interaction with the sun.
And they are also, while sunshine is good, it's very good, they are also advising that we avoid the UV rays.
Mm-hmm.
And you find the UV rays is more intense between the hours of 10
Mm-hmm.
to 3. So the health experts are advising that if we have to expose ourselves to the sun, it should be before 10 or after 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's when the UV rays are at its lowest.
Mm-hmm.
So while sunshine is good, we have to bear in mind, persons who go to the beach,
Mm-hmm.
we need to ensure that we, don't expose ourselves too much to the UV rays, because in Grenada, we have skin cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have that. So we don't want to end up having those kind of problems. Also, I have found a study that says that sunshine helps with lowering cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
I am here to discover how effective that is. I've also come across where they're saying that sunshine helps with sleep,
Mm-hmm.
because it releases another hormone called melatonin that helps you with sleep,
Mm-hmm.
So sunshine is very, very beneficial.
I'd like to add that for those who are dark-skinned,
Mm-hmm.
like myself, with my real African complexion, we need a little bit more
Mhm.
sunlight than those persons who are with a lighter complexion. One study actually showed that people got 8 times more serotonin in their system by being out in the sun than those who don't stay in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in certain countries abroad, where they have winters, long winters and rainy days, there's a disease, a mental illness we call SAD, seasonal affective disorder. Yeah, you got it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really need the sun.
Yes. We have a question. So if you were to sit by a window but the sun is not touching you, should you still go outside? Yes, you should go outside. And this is not only for the sun, but if the window is open, this may be, this may negate the statement, but if the window is not open, if you go outside, it's for the sun and the air as well. And Nova is saying, for those of us in icebox land, where we can hardly see the sun this time of the year, or we can't go outside to eat, how do we combat that? That is actually, yes, that's an interesting question. Like Pastor Guillaume was saying, since the best hours are before 10 and after 3. And I know that now the days are much shorter, so there's a shorter period between finishing work and being able to go outside. But as much sunshine as you can try to get in the hours that you are not at work, the better. Even if that means that you might have to, try to get to work earlier so that you can stay outside for a while and, maybe take a walk or something like that. Or if you get off work earlier, if you try to stay outside, that would help. If anyone else has any other suggestions, I would like you to just drop them down in the comments. So speeding along, because we're almost at the end of our time, the next one is one of our big T's, which is temperance. And the statement, too much of a good thing is always true. Too much of a good thing is a bad thing. Too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing. And even if you drink water, if you exercise, if you eat well, all of those things will be negated if you do too much of it. So if you eat too much food, you will still gain weight, even if, you'll say it's healthy food, I was eating salads and, I was eating X and Y and Z. If you do too much, it's going to be bad for you. If you exercise too much, you can strain your muscles, you can damage parts of your body. Too much is still a bad thing. Also, as we just talked about, too much sunshine, you could get skin cancer. It's doing things in excess is still a bad thing, and that's why we should pay a lot of attention to the recommended amounts of things that we should do. If you're really concerned about what exactly is your recommended amount, you could, if you know any dietitians or nutritionists or someone who deals with health, doctors, you can talk to them to find out specifically what's good for you.
Another component of temperance is that it's a total abstinence from the things that are bad and the moderate use of the things that are good.
That's right. And that doesn't only include food.
Yes.
But it also includes behaviors,
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle practices,
Mm-hmm.
those things that are harmful,
Mm-hmm.
you stay away from it. Behaviors that are harmful, you stay away.
Tobacco, alcohol,
That's right.
stay away from those things, caffeine.
So we have the next one is air. And we have fresh air has more oxygen than air in a closed room. And the oxygen in fresh air can help you think more clearly.
Absolutely.
And one thing that I think is often said, and I think a lot of people may know, that when you're in a closed environment, the air that is going around is recycled air. Whatever fresh air was in the room at the beginning of the day quickly becomes stale air with many people working, breathing, moving around, and doing other bodily processes within the room. So it's necessary to go outside to get that fresh air, like I was saying. When you go outside to get sunshine, you also get air, fresh air. So it's important that even if you say, well, I'm breathing, I'm always getting air. If you work in a closed environment, if you are in a country where you have to keep your windows closed due to certain weather changes, you still will have to go outside to get that fresh air.
And secondhand smoke is,
Yes.
they're proving out that secondhand smoke is just as dangerous as smoking itself.
If not worse.
So-
Not worse.
Yeah.
And the
So
truth is
stay
that,
away from it.
in addition to that, Pastor Guillaume, some people are deceived into thinking that because the air condition is on, then I don't need to go outside because it's cool and nice air. But the truth is that you still need fresh air from outside.
That's right.
And especially since your air conditioning is not cleaned every single day, the air has to pass through the air conditioning units before it gets to you. So that's something that you just have to remember.
Somebody suggesting that you have plants.
We have somebody saying if you're in an office, is it good to have plants around? And that is correct, because plants do recycle carbon dioxide to oxygen during the day.
That's right.
So it is, if you work in an office, yes, it would be a good thing to have fresh plants around.
Big time.
So R is rest. And the adult's recommendation is 7 to 9 hours per night. So I know a lot of persons will say, you know, I could go on 4 hours. I don't even need 4. I just need 3 or give me 5 and I'm gonna be okay. Especially if you work a high intensity job, or you work high mental and or physical intensity, you will find that you will never be as good at what you're doing at 4 hours of sleep as you will be at 7 to 9 hours of sleep. It is said that some people can function well enough on less, some people need more, but it's always safest to stay within that recommended 7 to 9 hours. So one thing that you would have to do is to, again, like with all of these things, you have to have a daily plan, you know what time you're waking up, know what time you're going to sleep, know what time you do each thing, because that will help you to stick to all of your guidelines.
In fact, the pancreas, its work and effectiveness is reduced by 30% if you're only getting 4 hours sleep. And there is now an established correlation between short sleep and onset of type 2 diabetes. Also, there is a correlation between sleep deprivation and hypertension. There is a correlation between sleep deprivation and mental illness and depression.
That's true.
So one truly needs to get at least 7 to 8 hours sleep, especially students, because lack of sleep reduces your memory.
Well, one of the things we have discovered, we usually do what they call the computer health age, where there are 7 lifestyle changes that it encourages persons to make. And we have observed that within the Adventist circle, especially among our young people, sleep deprivation is a major, major issue. So while they don't drink alcohol, while they don't smoke and so forth, but when it comes to sleep, a lot of persons fail in that aspect. The recommendation you give, 7 to 9 hours, that has to do with night sleep. Because daytime sleep cannot make up for night. So that 7 to 9 hours has to be for night sleep. It's okay to rest in the day, it's okay to take a siesta, it's okay to sleep in the day. But when it comes to night, and a lot of our young people, because of the gadgets, they spend a lot of time, late nights, looking at videos and all of those things, chatting on Facebook. And to me, those things are more important than the sleep. And as Pastor rightly says, after a while, it affects your brain. So it's very important to, strongly encourage our young people to ensure that at nights they get sufficient sleep. Even on Friday nights. Some young people go and sleep late. And on Sabbath morning, they fall asleep in church. So it's important that they, see sleep as very important. Otherwise, later on, it will affect.
But I want to add to your night sleep idea, Pastor, by saying that the hours before midnight are even more important than those after midnight. So getting at least 2 hours before midnight is translating to is equal to 4 hours after midnight. That's what the research is showing. Folks need to go to their bed before midnight.
That's right.
And also, it's important to practice good sleep hygiene. And what sleep hygiene means is that, for example, you take off your devices an hour or half. There's some people who, the instant they put it down, they'll fall asleep, and I commend those people. But for most people, it is advised that you turn off your devices at least an hour before you go to sleep. And also, don't do wakeful things in your sleep environment. For example, don't study in your bed, don't eat, don't talk, don't do many things. And so we have our last point, which is trust in God. And this one may sound self-explanatory, and this one may sound like the easiest one, but this is the one that many of us struggle with. And again, all of these things can also be helped with starting a good routine. If you have a routine where you wake up in the morning, you do your devotion, you drink your water, you know, after getting your 7 to 9 hours sleep, and you see how you can input all of these things into your day. You take your walk outside before you get ready for work or school, and then you go to work, you eat your balanced meal. So when you input all of these things into your routine, you find it easier to follow all of those health principles.
And I take 10 seconds and say that just about 80% of our diseases is related to stress some way, somehow.
That's right.
Trust in God is one of the biggest and cheapest and easiest stress busters that I know. We have a wonderful, loving, heavenly parent who can do all things. And we need to recognize by practicing the presence of God, He's with you. Therefore, what you can't manage, give it to Him. He will help.
Amen. And my final thought, it says that genetics load the gun,
Lifestyle
pulls the
trigger.
trigger.
Amen.
So you may be born with diabetes in your genes and high blood pressure in your genes and cancer in your genes.
Stay right there.
But how you live, your lifestyle, can either trigger it or
Move it or delay the onset.
Unfortunately, this is all the time we have for this week. We even went over our time. So we will not be able to take any prayer requests tonight, but we will have a general prayer for all of you and your pursuit of the health laws. And we hope that you will join us next week for another episode of Youth Live. We invite you now to pray with us. Pastor Lord.
Our gracious Father, what a joy it has been to talk about health and to know that you want us to be healthy.
yes.
We want to thank you for our wonderful and consistent listeners and viewers out through the miracle of technology, out across the various countries in the world and the various places and parishes in our Caribbean, in our little island in the Caribbean. We thank you for the time we spent. We thank you for the thoughts that were expressed. We thank you for the explanation and the participation of our viewing audience. Father, we want to be healthy. We pray that you will make us healthy. Bless our efforts as we practice the 8 laws of health.
Yes, Lord.
We ask that your grace will attend to us and that we will realize good health, that we might be stronger and wiser as we work harder for the expansion of your kingdom and the glory of your name. Bless us, grant us a wonderful night's rest tonight, we pray. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Youth Live, and please remember to like and share this episode. Even though the episode is over, it can still be viewed and the information will still be relevant. We invite you to join us next week at 7:30, same time, same place. Happy Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath. Feliz Sabbath.
Happy Sabbath.
Busa.
Lord, I come before you with contrite heart. Humbly I surrender all that I am. I want to learn from you. Please draw me close to you. Help me share your love and grace in all I do. Lord, I come before you with contrite heart. Humbly I surrender all that I am. I want to learn from you. Please draw me close to you. Let me share your love and grace in all I do. Oh Lord, transform me. Change my heart completely to be more like you. Oh Lord, renew may lead me. I want to serve you till the very end. Help me shine a light to a darkened world, and always leave your truth in every way. May your love for me be seen by everyone, and lead others to trust and love you more. Oh Lord, transform me, change my heart completely to be more like you. Oh Lord, renew me, heal my mind and broken heart today. I want to be and to do what you commanded, and be filled with the Spirit every day. I want to serve you wherever you may lead me. I want to serve you till the very end. Oh Lord, transform me, change my heart completely to be more like you. Oh Lord, renew me, heal my mind and broken heart today. I want to be and to do what you commanded, and be filled with the Spirit every day. I want to serve you wherever you may lead me. I want to serve you till the very end. Lord, transform me to